When physics finally wakes up to its true meaning, not only will atheistic science communicators like Neil deGrasse Tyson be out of a job, they'll be in for a rude awakening. As Robert Jastrow, author of God and the Astronomers, says, "For the scientist who has lived by his faith in the power of reason, the story ends like a bad dream. He has scaled the mountains of ignorance. He is about to conquer the highest peak. As he pulls himself over the final rock, he is greeted by a band of theologians who have been sitting there for centuries, who have been apprehending and understanding these principles of ultimate reality, which are suggested and eluded by science, but science refuses to accept. Science feels as though it has defeated religion, as though religion is a dying and out-of-touch worldview. New atheists, science communicators, public intellectuals, they've all steered people away from religion, contributing to a rise in atheism and a denigration of religions. You saw this a lot in the early 2000s with like these new atheist types like Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, etc. And even those who are religious feel as though they need to tamper their religious beliefs, as though, oh, well, it's all a metaphor. The world wasn't actually created by God. It's just a way that we can be moral or something like that. They need to reconcile their religious beliefs with what they believe to be scientific observations. So this is what Stephen Jay Gould, who is an atheist scientist, he calls the dualism of non-overlapping magisterias, that he thinks science should be over here and religion should be over here, and they should say nothing about each other. But if both of them are true, or one of them is true, then surely they would have bearing on one another. And in fact, there is no dualism. In fact, they are both two different languages of expressing the same fundamental idea. And so science needs to be updated, religion needs to be updated, because they both need to be understood through this logical framework. But science believes that it has a monopoly on rational and logical thinking. Science provides a robust framework to understand the physical universe, but it really doesn't go that much farther. It doesn't answer metaphysical or existential questions of the why behind fundamental processes, and that's where theology and religion can come in. Is we can say that science has to do with the physical, externalized world, whereas religion deals with the teleology and purpose of things. It deals with the underlying basis for the material world, which is this creative substance. And really that goes a little bit beyond the bounds of just religion. It also goes into metaphysics, which is the study of ultimate reality. And all of these things are wrapped up into one fundamental framework. And science is said to be more humble by public intellectuals. They say, this is a common line, they say they don't settle for answers without questions in the face of questions without answers. And I think that that's fair to a certain extent, that science has not been corrupted by ideology. I think that was definitely true of the early scientists like Isaac Newton and Galileo. If they are really taking this wherever the facts take them, and they are really accepting wherever the facts take them, as this is before science was corrupted by this extreme materialist ideology, most of those people were actually quite faithful believers in God, and they might have had their own idiosyncratic views of religion, but nevertheless they believed in God and they believed in purpose to reality. And this shows that religion must engage with scientific facts to remain relevant, but also science must engage with religious questions in order to remain relevant, as there are certain questions which science will not take on, and that shows its lack of humility, because it will only take on questions that it thinks it already knows the answer to. That's not the sign of someone who is humble and willing to learn from other people or other domains of thought. And there are a lot of domains of thought which science in general avoids, but it could have a great impact on. So for example, what is the role of a creator in an eternal and infinite universe? This is suggested by the Hawking-Hartle hypothesis, which says that there is no boundary to reality, is that if you parameterize the coordinates of the space-time manifold in a certain way, then you get rid of singularities or jumps or breaks like black holes or the Big Bang, and you end up with this smooth universe whereby every point equally participates in the original creation event, is that there's no particular origin to reality, but rather reality is self-originating from every point within its geometric space. So this could be used to understand how we can have a self-generating universe. Philosophical or theological frameworks, likewise, shouldn't deny or require denial of empirical measurements like the age of the universe or the shape of the earth. Philosophy, science, and religion should inform one another. And there's a way that we can understand all of these fundamental fields of study in a way that is convergent with one another rather than putting them into needless conflict. Nevertheless, it is worth mentioning from this idea of the Kalam cosmological argument that the existence of God can be proved by the origin of the universe. So it goes like this, is that the Big Bang Theory posits that space-time and the physical universe emerged from a joint origin of nothingness 13.8 billion years ago. Is that at one moment there was a universe, and before then, so to speak, before then is not really applicable because that moment includes the generation of time, but logically prior to that, there was a space from which the universe emerged. And physicist Lawrence Krauss argues that quantum mechanics allows for universes to emerge from nothing, defined as a lack of space, time, and matter. But of course, space, time, and matter are not the only things in reality. There is also this substrate that allows for it to emerge at all. So to say it emerges from nothing is more to say it emerges from emergence, so to speak, because what exists before nothing? What is it that allows for nothing to become something? It is this unbound telesis, this free creative potential, which is conditioned through reality. Is that all of reality consists of one substance, which is matter, which is the potentiated form of telesis in the physical subdomain, and then so that is that, but then what exists before that and what exists logically prior to that at every moment that reality changes from one state to the next is this creative substance called unbound telesis, which represents this space of infinite expansive potential. It is a one creative material substance that underlies everything, that undergoes this transition from unbound or potential to bound, fully actualized forms. A literal nothingness devoid of space, time, matter, energy, or laws cannot logically produce something. Instead, the CTMU redefines nothingness as unbound telesis, as infinite expansive potential, or zero informational constraint that emerges a universe through a proto-will in the mind of God, this telic recursion whereby a future desirable state, such as that of a fully actualized universe, can help inform and program the current state in order to lead to its own emergence. So this leads to a kind of recursive feedback and creative evolution. And the CTMU defines God as integral to the creative process of reality. Space-time is not fundamental, but emergent from quantum informational processes which reduce ultimately to telic recursion. Objective reality cannot exist independently of observation and perception. We live in a participatory universe, is that we are actually, when we observe or measure a quantum system, we are participating in that event. Our perception shapes objective reality. To be is to be perceived. The universe operates like a hologram or simulation, and this leads in the CTMU, this participatory universe or self-excited circuit idea, whereby we are participating in the self-generation of the universe through our mind and will, is generalized to the reality self-simulation principle, which says that reality is a simulation that exists by, for, and through the structure of the universe itself. And that means that consciousness plays an integral role in the self-processing of reality. So the universe emerges from a space of nothingness, which is itself fully God, which is the infinite creator beyond all categories of material, space, or time. And if the universe runs like a simulation, then that means that we are living within a space of that infinite creator who willingly retracted himself in order to create a space for his self-identification. So this bridges the gap between science and faith because it shows that in order to the necessary precondition for the material universe is an intelligent creator who exists beyond space and time. And so this suggests that we live within the mind of the creator, consisting of pure experience. Human beings are fundamental to the process and structure of reality, not emergent from brute physical phenomena. Consciousness is a fundamental part of the universe. It's not a byproduct of physical processes. The CTMU supports this idea of panpsychism, which means that mind is inherent within all physical systems. All matter possesses a degree of consciousness, and this intelligence scales all the way from particles to cosmic systems. Basically, reality is a self-synthesizing information system, and consciousness arises from systems that are capable of collecting and integrating information. So the universe itself, as a self-contained informational system, must have a degree of consciousness beyond that of any particular observer within it. information requires something that is being informed, some sort of processor, and the processor of reality is this mental domain. So the quantum wave function collapse, as we discussed before, suggests a link between consciousness and reality, and that is fully actualized in this idea of a universal mind, is that consciousness plays an active role in shaping reality. All is mind. The universe is a mental construct, and mind is a fundamental reality. So that means that reality is not objective, so to speak, but is rather subjective to the perspective of all observers at once. It is shaped by our perception and consciousness. Consciousness is an inherent system. Consciousness is an inherent characteristic of all matter that lays dormant in systems with less structural complexity, as it emerges in complex systems. So basically, material objects are systems which are not structurally complex enough to embody full self-awareness, but nevertheless contain within them the seeds of consciousness, because we are made of the same matter as everything around us, and we are capable of expressing and being shaped by, as well as shaping, conscious reality. So this proves the idea of a universal mind with theological ideas of divine creation and interconnectedness that are suggested by this universal mind, is that we are all part of one universal self, of one perspective of awareness which transcends any particular limited perspective, but rather takes the totalizing view of all of reality, that there is this co-creative role between consciousness and the cosmos. So that means that consciousness is the law of the universe because it defines its self-boundary and self-identification. There is nothing outside of consciousness because consciousness is the identity of reality. It is that through which reality exists. It's why the CTMU could just as well be called the consciousness theoretic model of the universe, because that through which everything exists, aka the universal mind, is ultimate reality. It is the model of the universe. The universe is modeled and theorized about through consciousness. What is it that develops theories or models? It obviously has to be, at this grand reductive level, a universal mind. And if we give an honest assessment of the world from its own perspective, it would show that it is not only fundamentally mental, but also that the cutting edge of physics is both theological and metaphysical and goes beyond the mechanistic materialism offered by popular science communicators. Science, although it feels like it's defeated religion, it is dead wrong. Religion is just as powerful and robust as ever. In fact, there is new and greater evidence for believing in theology and for believing in the study of God than there has been at any point in human history. An honest assessment of the facts and evidence of our reality as it is known and disclosed to us would suggest that we should believe in a creator. The pursuit of truth in science and theology ultimately lead to the same summit, the CTMU. The CTMU is the greatest intellectual triumph in history, merging science, philosophy, and religion into a unified model of reality. If you're interested in learning more about CTMU or becoming a CTMU student, comment "I'm in" below and we'll take you to a page which will basically teach you how to fully live out and share these principles through our online educational platform called Compatriot Academy, or free private community called the CTMU Club. Thank you. Let the light shine forth in the darkness. May the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe. Peace.